Welcome and thanks for joining us for another episode of Code Girls on Air, a podcast exploring all things technology, female leadership, careers, education, and topics within the nonprofit sector. On this episode, we interviewed Rebecca Smith, who is an architect at LPW Architecture. So join Rebecca and me to hear more of her story. Well, welcome, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Do you think you could start by just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background and your career?
Yeah. So I am Rebecca Smith. I'm an architect with LPW Architecture. LPW is located in Great Falls, but I work remote from my home in Columbia Falls.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we do so much work in the Flathead Valley, so that's why they hired me remote. I've been there for about 3.5 years. The majority of their projects are healthcare, education, multifamily, and I'm mostly in the education multifamily sector. Okay. Let's see, I've been an architect for 9 years, and I went to school at Northeastern University in Boston, and I got a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Architecture there.
Well, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. So did you always want to go into architecture? Or is that kind of something you decided when you went to school?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. I think I decided around age 13 or 14.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be an architect. I was taking a home economics class in middle school, and we had to research a career of what we wanted to be when we grew up. I had no idea what I wanted to be, so I was talking to my mom, and she said, well, you're always drawing pictures of houses. Why don't you research architect? So I researched it, thought it sounded pretty cool, and
that's so exciting.
The rest is history. Here we are.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the challenges you faced when you first started your career, and how did you kind of overcome those challenges?
Probably the biggest challenge was transitioning what I learned in architecture school to actually the real world.
Oh, okay.
So in architecture school, they're really good about teaching you how to design a building, but they don't teach you so much how buildings are actually constructed or put together. So when I started my first job, it was a really big learning curve, kind of learning how buildings are actually put together and what contractors need from architects to be able to build those buildings and things like that. So that was definitely the biggest challenge, but just the more experience you get, the easier it gets.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What were some of the resources that kind of helped you in that learning curve or when you were first starting out?
So my university had a program called a co-op program.
Okay.
So that was probably one of the biggest resources that helped me. So that meant that every architecture student had to do 2 6-month internships.
Oh, okay.
So while I was still in college, I was getting real world experience.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the biggest resources. And then at that actual internship, I did both of my 6-month internships at the same architecture firm, and it was a smaller firm. So I was really lucky that they gave me a lot of responsibility kind of right off the bat. And then the boss that I had there, he was great. He was a really good teacher, and he would answer any dumb questions that I came up with. And so he kind of took me under his wing and really helped me learn and grow. And then he would also take me to construction sites with him, and I got to go to client and engineering meetings. So I really got to kind of learn how to interact with people in a professional environment kind of firsthand.
That's a wonderful experience.
It was really nice graduating and already having that experience. It really kind of prepared me to go, full-time architect when I graduated.
Yeah, so after you graduated, that was in Boston, right? How did you end up in Montana?
That is a great question. Oh, it's very convoluted. So I was a Navy brat. I kind of moved around a lot as a kid, so I've never had a problem moving around. I was in Ohio from 10 to 18, decided I wanted to go back to the East Coast because we'd been in the East Coast for a little bit. That's how I decided to go to Boston.
Okay.
And then I got a job in Newport, Rhode Island right after I graduated.
Oh, okay.
So after being in Newport for a little while,
and was that in architecture too, or was that?
It was. Yep. That was my first job. After I graduated with my master's, was in Rhode Island.
Okay.
So my brother had just gotten out of the Army. He was living in Alaska for a summer, and I went to visit him and just fell in love with the mountains. I was like, I think I need to live near the mountains. And so I wasn't totally happy at my job in Rhode Island. And so I applied for a job in Colorado and got that. And And then while I was in Colorado, I met my fiance.
Oh, yeah, because you just got engaged, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I met my fiance. He told me he was probably going to move to Montana in a few months.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, we'll keep things casual.
Yeah.
And again, here we are. So, but very happy with the move. We love Montana.
We're
so not going anywhere. So
you're here for the long haul.
Yep, exactly.
So you work remotely now. So what does a day in your life kind of look like?
So a day in my life, most of my day is spent in a computer program called Revit. Okay. That's the program that most architects and engineers use to actually produce our construction drawing sets and design our buildings. So that's the majority of my day. Depending on the day, I will have meetings with design teams. So that'll be the architect leading, and then there'll be a lot of engineers involved, and then our interior designer, landscape designer if we have one. And then I also have meetings called OACs. OAC stands for Owner, Architect, Contractor.
Okay.
So if there's a project that's under construction, we have weekly or bi-weekly meetings with the owner, the architect, and the contractor. And that's just kind of coordination, progress updates, things like that. And then usually after those, I'll go visit the construction site, see how the progress is going, take photos.
That's exciting.
Things like that. And then throughout my day, I'm just constantly coordinating with people via email, phone, engineers, owners, whoever. So
that's exciting. Do you get to go to the actual construction sites very often?
Yeah. So at least once a month, I'd say I'm on a construction site. So right now we're working on 2 elementary schools in Polson.
Oh, okay.
So like last week, I just got to go down there for the OAC and check out the construction and stuff. So,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So working as an architect, that's a fairly male-dominated field. What's that kind of like working as a woman in that field?
I will say at first it was very intimidating. Not so much necessarily in the architecture firms. The architecture firms are predominantly male-dominated. But being on the actual construction sites and then in meetings with mostly male engineers, that was very intimidating at first.
Yeah.
I'd say the more experience you get, the more confident you feel actually going on those construction sites or speaking up or leading those meetings with mostly men. And I'll say in the beginning, I just kind of faked it till I made it. So, sitting up straight, looking people in the eye, just being prepared for your meetings with your agenda and things like that. That really helps to build your confidence and kind of overcome that insecurity, I'd say.
Were there other challenges you faced other than just it being intimidating?
Not so much. I've been very lucky where most of the men that I've worked with have been extremely, respectful of the women that they work with.
That's wonderful.
And, I don't really have issues with being interrupted or not respected or anything like that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what would you say most surprised you first when you started out in your field?
This kind of goes back to that applying the architecture school to real world. So again, just kind of like learning how buildings are actually built.
Yeah.
That was probably the most shocking and learning curve item. I guess I had to.
No, yeah,
I had to get over.
A shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think is one important strength or personality trait somebody would need to have to be successful as an architect?
I don't know if I can pinpoint just one. Yeah. So I'll go over a couple. Yeah. So the first I would say is just the ability to work hard. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we're working towards deadlines. So you'll have a couple weeks where you're working, well over that typical 40-hour work week. So just the ability to kind of sit down and grind it out and produce your drawings and construction set and stuff like that. That's really important. And then the ability to be organized. I still struggle with this. We have a lot of architects in my office who are extremely organized. So I kind of I kind of let them lead me by example, and I try and follow what they do. So just to be able to get a project done on time and done well, you need to be taking diligent notes during your coordination meetings. You need to be just making sure everyone's on track and on time to be able to get those deliverables out on time. And then just being a team player. You're constantly working on a team as an architect. No matter how small the project is, there's always going to be a team. Because you're always going to have at least an owner, an architect, and a contractor, no matter what, right?
So that's at least,
three. So just being able to work with different personalities and be able to delegate work and be delegated work and things like that. And then the last one is just, I'd say good communication, good listener. You need to be able to listen to what your clients' wants and needs are and kind of apply those to the project. And then throughout the whole design process and even the construction process, you're constantly communicating. So just being able to listen to people and get them the things that they need to be able to complete the project. That's really important.
Yeah. Well, and so do you do much work with that same project after you've kind of completed the initial drawings?
So most times we're involved in the what's considered the construction administration phase.
Okay.
So that's actually the start of the construction and through the entirety of the construction. So a lot of times we're answering questions that come up from the contractor. And we're approving submittals. So we'll specify a certain product, and the contractor will submit a submittal to a similar product or the same product, and we either say yes or no.
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah.
So more just answering questions at that point.
Yep.
So you were a Code Girls United board member before, right? Could you tell us more about what your experience was and what you'd like to see in the future for Code Girls?
Yeah, so I was on the board for about 2 years. I saw a lot of growth while I was on the board, which is really exciting, both with the programs expanding and then also Code Girls offices physically moving to a much bigger office. That first office was a little scary.
It was, because what year would you have been board member?
Oh gosh, let's see. I think I started in 2022. January.
So right when
2022.
We were moving from the Dairy Queen. But over by the Dairy Queen.
Yep.
This was a nice upgrade.
Yeah. Very nice upgrade. Yeah. So that was really exciting. And then I was part of the Great Fish and helping raise money. I did the highway cleanup as a board member. And then the app challenge is by far my favorite. Yeah. My favorite program that I experienced as a board member. I got to mediate a couple of those.
Okay, so you're a mediator.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So just seeing like all the apps that the teams presented, just
it's exciting.
You're all so smart. It just blows me away. You're so creative and innovative. The Code Girls are the best. Yeah. So impressive.
Thank you. I agree. No, those little girls are great. Yeah. I love watching the app competitions too. Yeah. They're so cute. They're so awesome. Young, doing all of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. They're great.
Yeah, and you talked about working with the Great Fish. Did you do the pom-poms?
I didn't do the pom-poms. No, I think I was out of town for the pom-poms.
Oh, yeah, that's what is it this weekend, Isabel? In the tech booth, we're going to go.
Oh, really?
Shake pom-poms.
Nice. That's awesome.
So
yeah.
I'm getting ready for that. But yeah, thank you so much for being out. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts?
No, I guess maybe just for the the future of Code Girls. Yeah. I just hope that every, girl in Montana has the ability to, become a Code Girl. I think it's such an amazing program. And maybe nationally we can expand. That would be so cool.
That'd be so cool. We're working on it. We're working on it. Yeah. And do you have any last kind of words for little aspiring architects we have out there?
I would just say work hard. It's a very rewarding career. It's a very difficult career, but very rewarding. If you're passionate about it, then it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun to have you on here, and I hope we can talk again someday.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Next week on Code Girls on Air,
I got to come here and feel like I was making a difference, not only in my own life just to get school credit or get an A, but I was helping people, and I was helping, whether it was helping people clean out a cabinet or helping young girls build their confidence during class time.